I appreciate you being here. I'm Jackie Kuehl, and I run the digital marketing degree program here at DePaul University. And part of a group that are starting an organization or a group, Community AI and Shy, as a bit of an offshoot to the AI Marketing Institute. So it's a place to collaborate, really educate each other and share experiences. So we're going to have three speakers: Susan Westwater, Matt Schmidt, Scott Dayton, and they're going to present various topics in AI, but very actionable insights that you can leave and have some steps, next steps, things to think about. And then we'll have a panel. They'll come back for the panel and answer any questions and discussion. And then after that is a little reception out here in the lobby. So we'll start with Susan, and she'll take it from here.
Yeah, perfect. Excellent. Yeah, and thank you everyone. As this is a new group, AI and Chai, if there are speakers or if you want to get more involved, we do have a meetup group, but even afterwards, Scott, Jackie, Matt, and myself come and talk to us. We're a fledgling little group. This is number 2. So we're excited, but we're getting a lot of great interest and want to make sure though that whatever we're giving to you guys is something that's helpful and also meaningful, because I think just the other week I was at a talk at a conference and someone plopped down on a sofa next to me and said, if I hear one more person say AI is really important and then not tell me what to do, I'm going to lose my mind. So we had a really great conversation after that, but I think it's really important that we are making sure that we're answering the questions you guys have. So please don't be shy during the panel. So I have to remember, I can't move. This may be a challenge because I'm a mover, but it's okay. So what every marketer should know about AI, this is kind of one of the things that has come through is that education is the most important thing. Like we know a lot about that. But I also want to do this as a level set to whether you're building and living in AI or if you're still figuring out how to implement it. It's important that we start with some nomenclature and some things that kind of level set. I know everyone who's here is, I'm hoping, is bought in to AI, so I'm not going to try to do too much selling, but all right. Pretty please. All right. We'll go that way. All right, so a little bit about me of like, why is she qualified to even be speaking up here? Who is this person? Some of you know me, but some of you do not. I have been an AI founder since 2017. Prior to that, was working in digital strategy, marketing strategy, and promotions. So I actually cut my teeth when we still didn't have key lines and we had stats. So I've seen quite a few times of where we had big technological shifts in the marketplace. And so this has been a really exciting time to see something this big again. How lucky am I to actually this time be able to act on it? We focus on AI and marketing AI, but also conversational AI. Therefore involved with a lot of groups that are involved with that, which is including we wrote 2 books, co-authored 2 books, Voice Strategy and Voice Marketing, but also have worked with the Marketing AI Institute, and then I'm also an advisor to the Linux Foundation's Trustmark initiative, which originally was part of the Open Voice Network, which was voice assistants worthy of user trust. Bit lofty, but we're making strides every day, and that's part of what the relationship with the Linux Foundation. No, it works. Okay. So we're going to talk about 3 quick questions, and I know I'm going to keep this short. So what types of AI are relevant to marketers? I think we all know about ChatGPT and generative AI. It's not the only flavor. And especially for regulated industries, it's a bigger, harder sell. So as we're thinking about things that we can do, sometimes that's probably not going to start with an LLM. Also, how can AI enhance marketing and customer experience? What are those things and those opportunities we have? As well as then, what does that look like? How do I start to think about that and putting that through? So the main categories of AI, and some of you may know who all these characters are and some of you may not, but as we think about AI and the promises of a Jarvis that is going to be able to build things, and we thinking of that as general AI, I think Sam Altman said that's coming next week, right? No, I'm kidding. I think it's a little bit later than that. Anthropic is saying 26, 27, maybe sooner. Sam's saying 2025. Yeah. He said it was thousands of days though, so that math for me isn't mathing, but that's okay. I will be excited when it happens. But we have narrow AI. And the other ways that this is called is weak AI, which I'm not a fan of. I don't think that's the nicest way to call this. And strong AI. But essentially, as we look through this, is we're kind of in that middle between a task-oriented Rosie the robot and C3PO, who can do all of our translations and start to do some agentic things. And by that, I mean, when we start to think about like the different aspects of it from a conversational AI perspective, so we're talking to them, we have natural language processing, we have generative AI, where we're starting to generate whole new things from corpuses of information, and predictive, where we're forecasting behavior, and looking, and then programmatic and automation. Those are the different flavors. Now, we all know generative can fall into some of those areas, and it's more than just content creation. But these are some of those flavors of what falls into our full landscape. Again, while I focus on conversational AI, I find myself playing a lot in generative and predictive a bit as we look at our clients and we start to say, all right, well, there is no silver bullet in AI. And I think that's the important thing to know, is that not all things will be solved by AI, and also not all one AI is required. The big thing that we're looking at now, and as we were talking about agentic, are these evolving chatbot capabilities. I'm going to use the word chatbot today. I think even Ethan Mullick just came out and said, we need to get a nomenclature and a lexicon. Today we're going to be calling that. So traditional chatbots, the good old press one for this, option, menus, specific tasks, rule-based. We now have our AI chatbots that allow us to have natural language processing. That's not new low prices. That NLP is, I actually had a client today say something about new low prices and call it NLP. And I laughed and said, do you mean language processing? That's where abbreviations are the danger. But those query responses that are limited to conversations, it's what's helping us be able to allow our audiences to speak in their language, not a prescribed formula that we were requiring with menus. And then we get into these virtual assistants that start to move beyond conversation and starting to execute tasks. And it could be something as simple as turn on my lights, or something as simple as play this music. But we're getting into that task thing. And now we're talking about AI agents, right? We have some reasoning capabilities and autonomous task building. So they're able to start to think about, well, in order for me to solve this problem, I need to go do this thing. Or I'll look at your calendar, and then I will give you, and this other person's calendar, and I will give you 4 spots that are open. That takes more than just a usual task piece. And I'm using really simple examples because it's easier for me to remember, but more so than that, that's putting it down to its simplest. This can get really complex really fast as you start to think about if-then statements, so to speak, or if you're looking at very large CRM platforms of where you're trying to do personalization. But this is allowing us to kind of think through those things of those triggers. And this is an evolution that's happened, I would say, very quickly. I'd love to say that since 2017, but I would say that those virtual assistants and agents, I mean, those are things that of November 2022 have started to come really to the forefront. Oh, there we go. So as we understand that opportunity, we've got the benefits of AI in marketing. You know, we can do our increased customer engagement by being relevant. We can personalize at scale at a way we haven't. Now, I think that the other side of the question of that is something that I'm actually working with the client on, is how much personalization before we're doing too much energy, or is it worth it? And then also, I think the ever so important but unscientific, is it creepy? Of what is that level of tolerances of knowing information that's relevant, that fine line between relevant, useful, and then creepy. But then we can also do data analytics, operational efficiency, and that's more than just automating and replacing people. It's removing repetitive tasks. That's something in the restaurant industry that is being looked at very hard because there is a worker shortage. How do I retain people because they're not doing repetitive things? And then just general enhanced marketing performance. If we can start to use our agents to help us optimize, there are ways in that we're having to make less decisions and are able to do data-driven things. But on the other side of that then is the AI adoption. So 75% of consumers are aware of generative AI, and 45% of people are using it. This is some research that I just pulled, was part of a study that was done called the AI Impact Report. This was a nationally representative. So these are all stats from that in the US. 60% of consumers currently use voice assistants at some sort of form. So that could be on your phone, that could be the smart speaker, or that could even be in your car. Because Mercedes and others have done some great strides to making that. The other part of it too, though, is that 60% of 18 to 34-year-olds, they use chatbots. They're the most engaged group. The other thing to know about that group, though, is from ages 18 to 49, that particular group is using it because we're using it in the workplace. Which is why we have these adoption gaps that are happening here. Now, this is taken from the State of Marketing AI report from the Drift study that the Marketing AI Institute puts out there, just so I'm a big fan of always citing my sources. So you can use them to sell your case, but two, also, they're not made up. I got burned by a ComScore stat once that 50% of all searches would be made by voice by 20. Never again. So 99% of marketers are using some form of AI. Of course, we all know Grammarly's AI, so don't get too excited. But 33% of them are incorporating it into their daily workflows. And that's the bigger, that 1/3, the UXer in me of when do we support a new format, a new form factor, it's when it hits the 1/3. So that's something to be thinking of. 67% of marketers, though, say education, lack of education is their barrier, which is why, I'll be honest, we've started AI and Chai, but that's also part of the thing of we need to fulfill and how do we cover that off. And then of the 85% of people of companies that are looking to use AI, only 19% of them actually have a roadmap. So that's a lot of fire, ready, aim. And so my hope is we fix the 67%, we'll hear more about ready, aim, fire. So what does implementing look like? There's a couple things that we think about when we think about that. Through the research and over the time, we've been thinking about this adoption mindset model. And it's something we saw with our iPhones. It's something you've even been able to see with meat alternatives and those types of things. And that is this idea of when it first comes out, you're resistant. There's almost a cynicism. And the question that we're looking to ask is like, why would I even want to do that? Now, we talk about this in a consumer sense, but this is also within an organization as well of, well, why would I do that? I can just do it my old way. And that's a way of thinking through those mindsets of as someone goes through this transformation of how do we get them on board? People don't necessarily in this phase one then want to know that they can launch a rocket ship, book an airplane ticket. They're going to be very basic because they're going to want to make sure that whatever it is they're doing is going to have some guardrails. And then that's where then we get the experimental, which is what is this thing? All right, I'll give it a go. If you think about the novelty, in 2019 in the UK, the #1 Alexa skill was a fart maker. And when we think about with our iPhones, when we could make it look like we were drinking a beer or it could play a sad trombone, these are all things that have that experimental novelty that helps break down that barrier. And then you move into explore because that was successful. You delivered that promise. Maybe that's not so bad. So then we move into this exploration of what else can this thing do? And that's where then we really start to have fun with top tasks of, can I order things? Can I book my flight? Can I check into something? And then we get into essential. We used to scoff about, someone said the signature on your iPhone had to be, I'm working from my toy today when they first came out. Now, my bad day is not when I leave my wallet at home, it's when I leave my phone at home. And that's where it becomes part of habit forming. And that's where it's become a fabric of your life and a thing that you don't necessarily notice until it's a little bit like plumbing. We're not near essential yet. There are those who use it in bits and spurts, but as we think through how we present these things to others and to our audiences, it's good to keep this in mind in addition to thinking about, are you an early adopter? Are you cutting edge? It's also, what are your objections? And this is a way of helping us with our mindsets. And this is important too, as we think about when you're selling it within an organization or to clients. And then that brings me to this idea of an organizational AI maturity model. So I think the days are gone of us just saying, hurry up, you need to do this, everything's behind, everyone's using AI. The reality of it is, again, and that's probably what's contributing to failing faster and a lot of that ready, fire, aim, is that piece. So there are groups that are aware of AI, but they're not necessarily implementing it. And I would say they're not implementing it on an organizational level. Individuals and business teams, that's what's going on. You might even have a policy that says no AI. What our studies have shown us in our research, you may say no AI, that just means you've created a secret society. And those people will share with each other, here's what I'm doing. So you're kind of taking on the risk and you're not getting any of the reward because those things aren't getting socialized. It is a really important thing to think about of don't use it is just not viable. Abstinence from AI is not happening. We see it in the data. That's then where then, if you do get to that point of the experiment of limited testing and projects of how do I get ready for this? How do I use this? What are some small executable pieces? And part of it's because we need to think of our roadmaps as something that's executable over a short period of time and a long period of time. Because we do live in a what have you done for me lately world. We do need to keep showing that progress to make sure that our champions are able to support. Once we've gotten through that experiment, and that's probably at a business team level, we then move into integration, where it becomes part of that organization. And then from there, we move into optimization, and then there's leading. And leading, there aren't that many right now, and that's the thing that's important. The fact that folks like you are all here today already puts you ahead of some of that piece. I think there's a lot of discussion about, the pioneers of this. And so it's important to know that like all of these are okay. It's just a matter of on that roadmap, on that path. The journey of 1,000 steps does start with that single step of moving from aware into experimentation. So as we think about these things then, what is that foundation of as I move from awareness to these other things? And a couple of these, and Matt's gonna talk a little bit more about this because he's living it day by day as he talks about his organization and his AI journey. But it is this idea of having an AI council so that your policy isn't just don't use it, that you're starting to think through intentional things, be it we'll give you access to these two models, or we feel comfortable with you using Copilot, but having some of those thoughts and starting to get yourself ready. But then also then creating that AI policy that comes with it. That council should do more than just whether or not gatekeeping. They should be thinking from a cross-division group or cross-departmental idea of how do I implement this? What is it that you're seeing that works for you or else? One of the teams that, of that same team, my aforementioned story of the woman who didn't want to hear any more about AI being important and what she could do with it, it was actually, she was the compliance lead. She had her IT lead with her and then a marketing lead. I was so excited. I wanted to hug all of them for being there as a team, going to things together. But that's what an AI council starts to look like, of having the different groups, because the IT person's concerns were very different than compliance is very different than that marketer. But together, that way then you're able to get a good policy together. And then get that roadmap or strategic plan. Where is it we want to go? How are we going to get there? What are the steps? We don't necessarily, it's not good practice to go and say, in 18 months, come back to me with this big thing. It's not viable. It's also not going to be tenable. So the idea is to make sure that you think of that, what can be done now, what can be done next, and then what is our future vision? It gives you enough flexibility to change if, say, I don't know, Google decides to change your form factors and kill an entire voice assistant. Not that that happened to me, but it did. But things like that you can then pivot for those things as opposed to, or understanding those considerations when you think through what LLM do I want to use if I'm going to use a model? Which ones do I want to use in their strengths and weaknesses? One thing I always love to say is the future is no longer multimodal, it is multi-model. Because I use Perplexity for one thing, I use Claude for something else. And as we have found in our research, the more that someone starts using generative AI, the more they start playing around with the models. There isn't one to rule them all. I don't know if we will get there. And then find experts to get your support and help. Like, you're not alone. There are many folks who post and share tons of information. Andy, I'm going to call you out, had a great session this afternoon about AI search. I'm calling it that. We'll figure out.
Sounds good.
Yeah, for the moment, asterisks, please don't you quote me on that. But being able to understand your content and making your content discoverability. So trying to keep it short, sweet, and to the point. If you have any other questions, this is where you can find me or my co-founder over if you have questions about some of the strategic pieces and things along those lines. We do have a panel at the end to hopefully keep things moving along. But if there's any other questions too at the reception, we can also cover off on that as well. But thanks.